There's something deeply unsettling about the ground beneath your feet. We trust on it, we build on it, we live our entire lives assuming it will always be there, solid, unmoving, and safe. Sinkholes are a terrifying anomaly to encounter. 1 minute standing on solid ground, the next it collapses beneath you, swallowing anything standing in the area with it. Sinkholes are not always a bottomless pit, and some fill with water as time goes on. But what if something came out of the sinkhole as it collapsed, and also found its home in your favorite fishing spot?
And Kansas is known for wheat fields, open skies, and quiet, flat roads that disappear into the horizon. I'm sure that most people think that tornadoes are what to fear most while in the Midwest. But what if there's something else that lurks in the darkness at night? Some locals whisper of something else, something that watches, something tall, something covered in dark fur and glowing eyes. I'm your host, Scoot, and welcome to Investigation. I'm also here with my co-hosts,
Hatter.
And Cass.
So this is like kind of a trial run for how some of our minis are going to work, with like both of us reading that little teaser of an intro, and then we'll go into our segments. We realized that we weren't really able to do like cryptids and just like fun shorter episodes because sometimes it felt like they didn't have enough. So we were just like, you know what, let's just like do a collab where me and Scoot will just cover like two smaller stories. But so I'm going to be kicking us off with Sinkhole Sam.
Ooh.
And now I'm going to first give a little bit of context into sinkholes themselves and why Kansas?
Why Kansas?
Kansas.
Why is it always
It's
Kansas?
always in Kansas. It just seems to be the general consensus this month. It's like, why Kansas? Sinkholes typically develop either slowly by a few inches each year or suddenly when the surface drops tens of feet per second.
Wow.
Yeah. Usually sinkholes form when groundwater moves through layers of halite, gypsum, or other soft materials and dissolves them away. So this ends up creating a void that can no longer support the top layer, and it causes the ground to slowly or quickly collapse. In some cases, sinkholes can also be caused by underground mining, and basically humans being humans and doing other human activities like oil and gas operations, which also cause a lack of support for the top layer. Kansas has a sinkhole problem, and it's for both of these reasons. Kansas itself was once a part of a vast ocean floor, and this created thick salt layers that can reach hundreds of feet deep. And it is considered karst terrain, which basically karst terrain is just like land that is naturally prone to underground erosion and sudden collapse. Now, Kansas sinkholes come from both human interference and simply underground water erosion. For example, a cavernous sinkhole appeared suddenly in 2013 in a Wallace County pasture, and it was probably caused just by natural salt dissolving by underground water. But there's also a gaping hole that developed near Hutchinson in 1974, which was related to decades of salt mining. Now, about a quarter of Kansas counties have sinkholes, which also weird, no, the Kansas Triangle doesn't have any sinkholes in it. Which is just like,
What is happening in Kansas?
what is happening in Kansas?
That's just going to be a slogan of ours now. What is happening in Kansas?
We need to get stickers for our Kansas listeners that's just like, what the fuck is going on in Kansas?
So you need to tell me, in the theory of the triangle,
Right.
there's not really any sinkholes.
Right.
But outside of Kansas,
There's a lot of fucking
there's a
sinkholes.
lot of sinkholes.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
And people live there by choice?
And it's like, it is beautiful. Like, I've seen pictures.
Yeah,
but it's also,
absolutely.
like, very flat.
Yes.
I'm like, there's not much going on. Well, environmental-wise, but there's a lot of other things going on in Kansas. Now, some of the sinkholes in Kansas have occurred hundreds of thousands of years ago, and others appeared in present day and even continue to appear in an instant. Like, there could be a sinkhole happening right now as we're talking about sinkholes in Kansas, happening in Kansas. So it's like sinkholeception, you know? It's What is pretty interesting is that the reason sinkholes often form in a near perfect circular shape is because the underground cavities collapse evenly outward, kind of like a bubble giving way.
Okay. All right. Makes sense.
Yeah. I have the tism. And so I went down a rabbit hole of sinkholes and like why they happen. And so some of it isn't really prevalent to the story at all, but I was like, this is just cool. And like, I want to know. It was like a hyperfixation for the period of time. And these sinkholes can continue to expand for days or even weeks after forming. So even when you see one, it doesn't mean it's done.
Like it can still keep going.
It could still keep going.
Ew.
Which is terrifying. And it also explains why, like, they rope them off so much further away than the actual sinkhole sometimes is, because they don't know how much more area under the top layer is actually erosion, but it's the past tense.
Eroded.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
I know the word. I just eroded. Which actually, so the Walmart that's near us, the power kept going out.
Oh, yeah.
And every time I went to get my groceries for a pickup order, they were like, power's out, we can't do anything about it.
Oh.
Anyways, it's because a sinkhole formed behind it, basically, and was cutting their power out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's cool.
So that reminds me, actually, I have a story of my own too, where I work. There was a sinkhole right in the parking lot of my workplace. Now, thankfully, I don't work at the main building, and that's where it was. Like, I work at a different one, so I'm all good. But the main building, they already have trouble with parking, so they had to like correlate with the store that was next to them and everything for extra parking spaces, and they just had to really try to work around. I think they had to park like across the street somewhere too, just to be able to actually park while they worked on fixing the sinkhole.
Oh.
Yeah. West Virginia is also considered karst terrain. So because there's like so much limestone and dolostone under it, it dissolves and creates features such as sinkholes, caves, sinking streams, and large springs underground.
Yeah. Makes sense.
The sinking streams, near where I live, there's like a couple roads where the right side of the road will like start sinking down. So what they'll do is they literally just pave over it every single time. Just keep repaving it.
That's smart.
Yeah, that's it's not. I don't know what their logic is with that, but I think they're just thinking like, oh, you know, with those many layers of the pavement, it's just gonna eventually just be hard underneath and like it won't keep sinking down.
West Virginia logic.
Yeah.
Moving forward, the story of Sinkhole Sam begins in the early 1950s near the town of Inman, Kansas. The sinkhole itself appears to have been noticed by local landowners/farmers on the private property, but it is important to note that reports of the creature date back even into the 1920s, being spotted by fishermen. However, the most well-documented case happened in 1952. Two Mennonite boys, Albert Newfield and George Regier, were fishing at the sinkhole when they spotted a creature described as 15 feet long and about as big around as a tire. Noted in one of my resources as a tire from a 1951 REO Speedwagon.
Well, that's oddly specific.
That's what I just thought. It was so funny. I was like, okay.
Now, I guess I'm trying to imagine, like, how big is
Yeah, I gotta Google an 1951 REO Speedwagon, because that was before my time. 1951 REO Speedwagon. Oh, that's not what I was picturing at all.
Oh, it's a truck.
It's a truck.
Oh, yeah, I got.
Yeah, I would.
With some big old wheels.
That is a big wheel too.
Yeah.
All I think of with REO Speedwagon though is like the band.
Yeah.
But it also has a fluke tail and a non-snake-like grin, which I'm gonna send you guys a picture of. Picture time.
Picture time.
Yeah, so you can see where it has like rows of teeth.
I don't like that.
And then the nose to it looks like little catfish whiskers sticking out of it.
Yes, which is actually a good point, which we'll circle back to. It kind of reminds me, if you're not familiar with the concept of the back rooms, it's basically like a liminal space that you glitch into. It started, I think, as a story on Reddit of just somebody like writing about the feeling of like an endless, I think it started as like a hotel lobby kind of thing where it's just like monotonous hallways that are kind of like a maze, but they never end. There's no exit, and it's like the same yellow peeling wallpaper and the hum of the fluorescent lights. It's very supposed to be creepy. The original wasn't supposed to have any creatures in it, but as people have taken it and developed, there is the thing called the backroom smiler, which I will show you a picture of.
Picture time!
Picture time times
again.
3!
Yeah, times 3. It's popular today.
Yes. So you can, like, see in the picture, it's like freaky smile.
It almost reminds me of like a really much creepier like Cheshire cat kind of.
Yes.
Like, ew.
Now, Regier had seen the creature from a bridge that stretched a little over the sinkhole, and Newfield took 2 shots at it with his .22 rifle. He insisted that he had hit the beast, but that Sam disappeared just as quickly as he appeared, and he did it without splashing or showing any signs of injury. He just sort of sunk back into the water.
Well, that's kind of weird.
Which I don't like that at all. Now, obviously, news of the story began to spread, and immediately people began to flock to the sinkhole. People started showing up, not always in crowds at first, but small groups like friends, neighbors, families. And as more people came, some would claim to see the creature, others said that they didn't see anything. Later that year, a veteran Kansas newspaper columnist named Ernest Alva Dewey traveled to Inman to sort it all out. This was like his thing. But his thing was also writing columns with a flair for the dramatic.
Ah.
So he published an article in the Salina Journal where he claimed that his scientific sidekick, Quattlebaum, had done some investigating into Sinkhole Sam, and that Quattlebaum determined that the snake was a Foopengurkle.
Who and what?
Magic Man.
Every time I say that, it gets funnier and funnier. I literally took a picture of this when I was writing it, and I sent it to my sister, and I was like, Foopengurkle. And when we were talking about it later, she's like, I thought that you were just like making up a word that you were like tired of writing, so you were just like typing letters into your keyboard. And I was like, no, it's a real thing I have to say on our podcast. So, Quattlebaum's Foopengurkle is apparently a critter known to inhabit subterranean Kansas caverns, which according to them is why Sam could exist in such a shallow body of water. Because this specific sinkhole was said to only get up to like 15 feet deep, and that was after a heavy rain. So Dewey concluded that fishermen and swimmers had nothing to worry about because Quattlebaum's research indicated Foopengurkles were terribly dumb and very vegetarian.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
If you told me when I was 18 years old that in like 10 years I would be doing a podcast where I had to legitimately say Quattlebaum's Foopengurkle was terribly dumb and very vegetarian, I would call you a fucking liar. Get help. But here I am.
I'd be like, get help.
Also, what are you smoking?
Like, right? What are you on,
What are
man?
you on? What kind of shrooms are those? Now, nevertheless, this did bring another swarm of people to the sinkhole, all claiming to be monster hunters. It reminds me of like the Grafton Monster, where people were just like, oh, I'm gonna get him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this is where the name Sinkhole Sam ended up being coined. People shared stories saying that they saw something in the hole, or somebody would be like, I saw it moving. You know, it's just rumors flying between people. It just kind of amplifies it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So people started to no longer come to see. They wanted to actually experience the monster. A book written by Mill Penner, whose family owned the land that the sinkhole was on and this all took place, he spoke about coming home and seeing dozens of cars lined on his property. And Penner had noticed that all of their cars had their windows up just in case they got their wish of seeing the creature firsthand.
Oh my gosh.
Now, the story kept spreading, and a year later, news had even reached Kansas City, and the Newspaper Enterprise Association sent Mary Kay Flynn to Inman. Flynn was a reporter who is said to have found numerous, quote, responsible citizens who have all claimed to see Sam, which is so fucking funny to me that they're eyewitness reports or just a responsible citizen?
Just a responsible citizen.
It's like these people aren't off on some bullshit. They are responsible people. Now, these responsible citizens even offered the same description for the creature, though, which is kind of like, okay, that is a little something.
It's got something.
Got a little something. Now, it is also in Flynn's article that we are told about the shot fired at Sam, and how Newfield was sure he hit him, but Regier thought that Sam had evaded any serious damage. And by October 12th, which is my birthday, 1953, which is not my birthday, the story had reached everywhere, even making its way into Florida. Now, it is very clear that Dewey was making light of the story and not really taking it seriously. But it is important to realize, like I said, that reports of this sighting dated even back into the 1920s. And on top of that, it is likely that Newfield and Regier had seen something. Penner's daughter pointed out that because Newfield and Regier are Mennonite, they aren't exactly prone to exaggerating or making things up.
That's a good point.
Yep, I was like, that's pretty fair. In an article written by Michael Alberti, he actually reached out to an expert cryptozoologist to try and get some insight. This cryptozoologist, Lauren Coleman, wrote a book titled The Field Guide to Lake Monsters, Sea Serpents, and Other Denizens of the Deep.
What's a denizen?
So a denizen is basically like, at least Google is saying that it's an inhabitant, occupant, or frequent visitor of a particular place, environment, or region.
Okay.
So it's basically like the book was like lake monsters, sea serpents, and other creatures that live in the waters.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, in this book, there is no Sinkhole Sam, but there is an entry for Kingman, Kansas, which is 50 miles south of Inman. Now, this entry mostly kind of steered the discussion towards freakishly large snakes that live on the plains. In the late 1960s, the citizens of Kingman even organized a hunting party to track down a 20-foot snake that was as big around as a man.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's like a report of just these massive snakes just
existing
south. Well, yeah, and I was going to say just south of Inman.
Okay.
Now, this snake had reportedly devoured a calf in half and then dragged it into the Kingman County State Lake.
Ew.
Ew.
Yeah. You know, the theory kind of here is like, maybe Sinkhole Sam was one of these snakes. Maybe Sinkhole Sam got tired of this sinkhole and moved on to Kingman. It is possible, too, because some of the sinkholes aren't exactly closed pits. Some of them do connect to, like, underground water systems, but to know it's more like a few chains of sinkholes connecting with one another close by, not like a giant underground system. Now, some other kind of theories even suggest that it might have been a released exotic pet like a boa constrictor, which could be possible, but it does seem a little weird for the 1950s, but especially because the sightings even go back to the 1920s.
Yeah.
Seems like a little unlikely, but still, which also reminds me of the sewer gators. Just like a released exotic pet creating this mass hysteria, basically.
Yes.
Currently in Inman itself, a local says that Sam is basically forgotten, and even the sinkhole is pretty much dried out. Only some very low water levels left to it. Travis Taggart, the president and executive director of the Center for North American Herpetology, which is the study of reptiles, says that gopher snakes are very common for the Inman area, and it is the longest native Kansas snake. They can reach up to around 7 feet long on average.
A decent size.
A decent size. So Taggart points out that gopher snakes are more likely to be Sinkhole Sam because they also don't mind getting into the water. And the size discrepancy could be explained away as the fact that snakes are hard to judge the size of, like when they're coiled up, but especially when they're swimming in muddy water.
Yeah.
Some people claim that it was just an optical illusion, and then as the time went on, the story was repeated and the sightings became more and more exaggerated, which we've seen several times. Some people have claimed that it's maybe a catfish or a type of eel, so that's where, like, you pointed out that it has kind of whiskers. Yep. But all in all, as one local puts it, quote, whatever Sinkhole Sam may have been, it's hard to imagine that he still remains after all these years. And that closes the case of Sinkhole Sam.
Well, I am going to be talking about the Beaman monster.
Ooh.
The story of the Beaman monster begins long ago in early 1900s, roughly around 1904.
Okay.
A circus had been traveling through Kansas for their shows. The circus was loaded onto a train that was making its way through Kansas City with crates and cages that carried their lions, tigers, and bears.
Oh my.
And of course, other animals that were used in their acts to all their audiences.
Right.
Yeah.
As the train was traveling through Kansas City, the train derailed from its tracks, which unfortunately caused many of the cars and cages containing the circus animals to be tossed.
Oh no.
Many of the animals were either injured or escaped from the confines of their cage. The animals that had escaped from the derailment were caught and contained, but one escaped that was never to be seen again. It was their prized possession, a 12-foot gorilla.
Oh.
Now,
How?
Okay.
now, let's keep in mind that the average gorilla is somewhere between 4'1" to 6 foot, depending on type and gender.
Yeah.
How would it be doubled from the larger size? Like,
Exactly. The larger average.
just double that. And there you go.
I don't know, man.
I smell bullshit.
Now, it is said that the Beaman is the offspring of this giant gorilla.
What did it mate with?
Right? That's what I'd like to know.
I'm confused.
Oh,
There's no gorillas in Kansas just
No.
hanging around. Just hanging around.
No.
Now, some say it's a wolf gorilla hybrid, which is
Make that make sense. What the heck?
which I have here in my notes that this is a weird thought in my opinion. And then
Yeah.
I was gonna continue off, and then I stopped midway. I was like, no, we're gonna talk about this.
Yeah, because there's no way a gorilla's fucking a wolf.
No, no matter what gender it is, there's no way.
Mm-mm.
It's not possible.
Biologically and like the chromosomes, it just makes no sense.
Right. And also a 12-foot
A
gorilla.
12-foot gorilla.
Parts are not reaching the other parts that it would need to reach. There's no way.
No way.
No.
Oh, shoot. Now, sometimes it's kind of referred to as a wolf / coyote-like creature, so that makes me think of like a giant werewolf.
Yeah.
And that's what that makes me think of. Some say it's an ape-like creature that may also be the offspring of Bigfoot,
Okay.
which makes more sense.
That one
I
makes
could
a
see
lot
a
more
gorilla
sense.
fucking Bigfoot.
They-
I'm sorry. That makes way more sense.
It does make way more sense. No, this is true. Now, depictions vary from either like a big giant like humanoid creature to more of a gigantic upright coyote / wolf creature with luminescent eyes. Now, I tried to find anything reported on this train derailment. I found a website called circusandsideshow.com, which they actually have a list of circus train wrecks. Ironically enough.
How many were there then to make an actual full-on website about it?
Why would you want, why in your spare time were you like,
That-
you know what,
yeah.
I'm going to look up circus
Circus
derailments.
Like, not just train derailments. No, just
Circus.
specifically circus train derailments. And why are there
Right.
so many to make that website?
Right. Why is there
To make-
enough to make an entire list?
Make a list in a section of the website. I know. It's a crazy thought. Now, I wasn't able to find any train wrecks from this time period. Only thing I could find was November 4th, 1887, which was the John Robertson Circus in St. Louis, Missouri. There was also the Ringling Brothers Circus in Concordia, Kansas in May 17th, 1892. And then we also had the Ringling Brothers Circus again in Centralia, Missouri on October 18th, 1892.
Okay. I could understand if it got because you said a roughly 1904. So it's I can understand if they were a year or two off. But those ones were several years earlier.
quite a bit earlier.
So that's a little fishy to me.
Little suspicious off the bat.
In my opinion, it is a little bit fishy.
So I couldn't find anything to back up this origin story. And there's already inconsistencies with the backstory and with what the creature looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the Beaman has been spotted in both Kansas and Missouri. Russell Hallman from Sedalia, Missouri, which is like an hour and a half away from Kansas City. Now, he grew up hearing the legend of the origins of the Beaman. Now, Russell also remembered like one of his uncles telling him a story about some commotion in one of his cornfields in the late 50s. Now, to quote, people were out there with all kinds of shotguns. He also said, quote, they were hunting for that Beaman monster. Now, during this time, after reports of like strange animal mutilations, this had caused panicked locals and farmers to arm themselves and organize hunts in the local cornfields.
Right, which makes sense, but it could have also just been an animal.
Yes. Now, the hunters, however, were never able to capture the beast.
Okay.
Of course.
Right.
Now, Damon Smith said that his sighting happened when he was about 10 years old. He was riding in the bed of a pickup truck when a wolf-shaped creature began to run alongside the vehicle.
Oh, I hate that.
Yes. He said, to quote, it wasn't quite animalistic, but he also said it was hard to explain. Now, another strange occurrence happened when finding a mauled pig that had no tracks of any other animals around it on his uncle's farm, and then he saw a shadowy figure lurking in the woods.
Okay.
Which could be logically explained. It could have just been another animal
Yeah.
that he saw. Steve Mallard grew up near Smithton, Missouri. When he was about 12, Mallard and a friend went behind his parents' barn to go dig up worms to go fish with.
Mm-hmm.
It was a dewy spring morning, and Mallard and his friend noticed a spot where, to quote, looked like a deer or something had laid down, and they noticed footprints. To quote again, these were huge footprints. He also said, we were following them down to the pond, and we just got spooked. They were big. We couldn't stride that far apart. Now, I also found a story on Reddit of someone's experience, which I'll go ahead and read to you.
Okay.
This was posted by Feisty Negotiation 103, and this was from about a year ago. Lifelong hunter from Kansas here. Just wanted to share my bizarre-ass encounter, lol. I made a Reddit account to tell this story, was never a guide to believe in this stuff until it all happened.
Mm-hmm.
First off, this thing looked shit down your leg, kind of scary in person.
Not the typical pee in your pants. No.
No.
That's the
No.
poop in your leg.
No.
Anyways, normal evening in my tree stand, big mature buck in the middle of the field. This deer is huge and I'm stoked. I wait for him to come in when all of a sudden, I've never seen before happens. This giant, extremely fast, 100% black has fur. I think he meant black ass fur, but still.
Or like black has fur.
Oh, could. And smoky aura / entity, I saw it looked like a huge orangutan that was the size of a pickup truck mixed with a bear / wolf creature.
Oh.
First and only time I've seen this thing, didn't even know it was a thing until it happened. It was moving at the speed of light out of this thicket, chases this huge, mature buck out of the field. I hear sticks crashing down like a semi-truck going through the woods. I've never seen anything run that fast in my life. I'm not even BSing you. I had a 400-yard run back to my truck. I stepped out of my tree stand so fast that I broke a 1-inch thick brand new bowl out of the tree I was using for a peg, ended up falling 10 feet out of the stand, ran as fast as I could back to the truck. This thing was absolutely terrifying. I was shitting my pants scared.
I believe it.
There's a lot of shit going on.
There's a lot of shitting going on. No man admits to shitting his pants that many times.
No.
Unless it actually happened.
Unless he actually saw something.
Yeah.
Now, people do recall the story of the Beaman monster being used as a prank in the 1950s. Jerry Loudenberger from Sedalia, Missouri, was in high school at the time when Broadway Boulevard was being widened into 4 lanes. Now, to quote, this was about the same time the technology came along that used strobe lights as a caution for road construction. Now, he said that some teenagers stole a construction sign with large, round, flashing yellow lights. They covered it with brush and then hid it in a field. And to quote, we would drive out there just to see who was out there checking on the monster. He also said, to quote, mainly to see who was gullible enough to see the monster. It did kind of look like eyes flashing, which makes it seem a little more suspicious of the legitimacy of this creature. in my opinion.
Yeah, but I feel like two things can be true at once, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that prank actually took place, but I mean, there had been reports of the monster, so I feel like it was the kids being like, oh my god, what if we
What if we did
created the
this?
monster,
Yeah,
you know?
true.
Freaked people out type of thing.
That's true. And it seems like kind of like every 50 years-ish, the story kind of starts to resurface with not much to back it up. It also seems like this could be a story used like the boogeyman to make children behave. But, you know, what do you guys think? Did a 12-foot gorilla escape from the circus?
No.
No.
I do feel like there's probably some substance there, because we have at least the Reddit story.
Yes.
Where the guy was like, I saw this motherfucker.
I saw this
Mhm.
ugly shit
Yeah.
going down my leg.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the fact that he literally purposely created a Reddit account just to
Just
share
to
that
tell
story.
the story.
I don't think he's making that up
He
at
saw
that
something.
point. Like, he was committed.
He saw
Yeah.
something. Yeah, because I never found anything else of that exact story anywhere else, just on Reddit.
Right, yeah, and I feel like if you're gonna try to like make up a story, your first thought wouldn't be like, let me create a throwaway account on Reddit to post.
Yeah.
It'd be like posting it on Facebook, where it has like a potential to go like viral,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I feel like it has a lot more substance than Sinkhole Sam.
It does. I will
'Cause
admit.
there's literally no current sightings, and everybody's like, even the locals are like, we don't even really think about him anymore.
We don't-
Like,
He doesn't exist anymore.
yeah, he's not here. So I would give it like on a cryptid 0 to 10 scale, of like 0 being definitely not, to 10 being like, yeah, there's something out there. I'd give it like a 6.5.
6.5? That
Yeah.
sounds valid.
Yeah.
And that pretty much wraps up my case for the Beaman monster.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks for listening in, guys. I thought that was some pretty interesting
Some
cryptids. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since we did some, so it was nice,
Yeah, the last ones we
refreshing.
did were in New York.
Yes.
It was a nice little refreshing change again.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed these stories, share it with your mother.
Share with your mother.
Catch us on Sunday for our next full episode.
Where I'm covering a Kansas old-timey true crime case.
Okay, so Hatter's going to be covering some form of true crime case in Kansas.
Yeah.
All right. I can't wait to hear that. That'll be exciting.
Hell yeah.
So don't go too far, guys, because we'll catch you in the next investigation. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. We like harmonized.
We did. We really did.
Bye.